Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Super7 Deluxe Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Hasbro Pulse exclusives, Tommy the White Ranger, or the metallic White Ranger. So this is now the fourth figure that I'm reviewing. This is the last one that I have. These are on pre-order right now through Hasbro Pulse. Shout out and thank you to Super7 for sending these four over to me so I can review for you guys. Links in the video description below if you're looking to pre-order these on Hasbro Pulse. They release on November 1st. But here we have the Tommy White Ranger. Kind of going throughout each of the videos of talking about kind of what these figures represent and stuff. And it's kind of been a crossover of a number of different things. We got the triangle packaging from the old school original 8-inch figures. We have the metallic look, which is kind of a throwback to the auto morphing movie figures. Those were done in like a vac metal color and all of those. And then this one doesn't have it because he doesn't have a morpher there, but you know, looking at the Rangers, they have the silver belt buckle with the red morpher. The original 8-inch figures also had that, but the auto morphing did. The power blasters that came with the Rangers have that hole in it because the pegs, they had pegs on the hands on the auto morphing. So it's kind of a crossover of a number of different things. Basically, what it boils down to is all nostalgia. Super7 to me is all about the nostalgia factors. You look at their Ultimates line like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and everything, like the Raphael and Metalhead figures that I have, those to me are basically the figures that I had when I was young. I was so young when those figures came out. But to me, that is exactly what those figures were when I was a kid. The same kind of goes for Power Rangers. Now, it's like a vintage toy with a modern twist, or a modern toy with a throwback vintage aesthetic in a way, if that makes sense. So for these figures, these deluxe figures, as opposed to the Ultimates, right? The Ultimates, again, is still the nostalgia factor, but they include a bunch of accessories and stuff because it's all kind of modernized. You get well-detailed accessories and things like that. But the Ultimates line is a little bit more expensive. So Super7 has started this deluxe line where you have like the similar figure. Paint apps might be a little bit different, but you get a lot less accessories and things like that. So that's what the deluxe is. So a lower price point and everything like that. So the Hasbro Pulse ones, they are metallic versions. So like Green Rangers, you could see you get a shiny paint application on there. Pink Ranger, same thing, shiny paint. Black Ranger, same thing, shiny paint. And then White Ranger here, kind of the same thing, shiny paint, although we get a silver color. Now, the original toy went with a vac metal, which was basically a chrome or silver. That's kind of why that is. Obviously, the Ultimate figure is white, but this one, Deluxe, being metallic, kind of going throwback while not doing like an actual vac metal style, we get a silver look. So let's go ahead and get it out of the box and take a look. It says Tommy there. We got all the Rangers lined up. There's not a whole lot going on in the back or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get the White Ranger out of the box. Okay, so here we have the metallic White Ranger out of the package. You know what? I'm kind of digging him. I have some big frustrations with this figure, though, but I'm digging it. The silver it stands out really nice, and I almost forget the fact, like, dude, he's supposed to be the White Ranger. He's not a Silver Ranger. But it still looks pretty good. I mean, with the hands and the boots are white, it's just the suit itself is not. I have the White Ranger figure, and I'll be completely honest with you guys. The first time I've opened this White Ranger's Ultimates figure, it was literally just now so I could do this comparison. So I haven't messed with this figure at all. I literally have taken it out of the package. I haven't even like set him up or, you know, moved him around or anything like that. So this is literally my first time. And this figure looks good. I think the gold is probably a little too bright, a little too yellow, in my opinion. I actually almost think like the shield and the coloring of gold actually is better than this. If only you could like swap the parts around. And I know some people, I mean, you could always just paint the silver white and do stuff like that. Or I'm sure there's a way to get that shield off if I pop the arms off. And that's my frustration. Those arms come off at the shoulder way too easily. I don't know about this guy yet, but on mine it does. You pop the head off and you could swap those shields around. But then you still have the problem with the belt, the gauntlets, the boots and the gloves, and then the helmet, of course. But I really like this gold over here on the silver. And it's so similar, like, again, I easily forget, like, silver is not the correct color. But again, what they're going for, it's a nostalgia throwback to, I guess would technically be the movie figure, right, which was the auto morphing White Ranger, that being like a chrome silver color. But I'm digging it. I am digging it. But the shoulder thing really bothers me. But anyway, there is our like side-by-side comparison. So you got the white with the super bright gold, and you got the silver with that kind of toned down bronzish gold. And again, I really like the toned down bronze gold. The Saba that we get with the Metallic Ranger, though, is kind of the more generic like. And I say that with quotes because this Saba is not at all like terrible. Like, not that the other ones are terrible, but like in terms of like accuracy to the show and stuff, yeah, the other accessories are terrible, and that's kind of by design because the original toy, again, it's kind of recreating those original toys. This Saba is pretty good. I mean, there is a better, more detailed one that comes with the Ultimates figure, yes, of course, but this silver one that's just kind of like, hey, here's, you know, kind of recreating what was in the toy, and it's like not like super great. This thing is actually pretty good. Like the sculpted details on it, you know, not too shabby. There's no paint because it's all silver because that's the throwback to what those figures were. This thing is pretty good. I'm very, very pleased with that. We do get a Power Blaster here, and I'd have to go back and look if a White Ranger ever did come with the Power Blaster. I know the Green Ranger did. I don't know if the White Ranger ever did, but we get one thrown in there, so at least he has the same number of accessories, or all the Rangers at least have the same number of accessories. Although Green and White technically have the shields, their shields, so that kind of adds a little bit to it. But you know, another one of those Power Blasters. But there we go. We got silver White Ranger. You know, the Super 7 Deluxe next to the Super 7 Ultimates figure. And there we go. And then one thing that I think I noticed right away is, so on mine, I can't really get the arms to go down to the side any more than that. Like if I try, it just pops the arm out at the shoulder. So it's pretty frustrating to get that arm to come down to his side a little bit more. And I don't know if the White Ranger Ultimates figure has that issue. It seems like it's not, because they seem to come down a little bit closer to his sides. Not that they're all the way there. So that is a little bit of a change up there. But for our side-by-side comparisons, we'll go ahead and get this out of the way. There we go. And then we'll zoom in for a closer look at the Metallic White Ranger before we take a look at the articulation, and then see all of our Metallic Rangers side by side. And again, I only have 4 out of the 7. So here we go. Okay, so here's an up-close look at the White Ranger. Again, the silver, I think silver looks pretty good. It also helps that the bright lights shining down on it here, at least in, you know, having it in front of me. The glare off of those lights kind of gives it the impression that it's white. But then when you have the White Ranger actually next to it, it's like, oh, you know, that is obviously a big difference there. But so, I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments below. Do you like the brighter gold here, or do you kind of like that toned down gold? Like, I'd have to go back and watch the show to see kind of which one was more accurate. I think, you know, if you're watching in HD, you're probably going to see something like this. If you watch, like, you know, the old school resolution and it just looks terrible and blurry on your TV, you're probably going to see something like this. And maybe that's what the difference is. But, you know, I always liked kind of the darker gold of the shield as opposed to the brighter gold. So maybe that's why the helmet-wise, I like the way this one looks more than the Ultimates. But the Ultimates does have so much more kind of going along with it. So there is obviously that benefit there. But this one is definitely a solid release, and I think it's going to be one of the more popular amongst the Deluxe Metallic Rangers. I think Green Ranger, White Ranger probably are going to sell the most, I would say. So links in the video description below to Hasbro Pulse, where they are exclusive to, if you want to get your pre-orders in. Again, these release November 1st. But looking at it, the sculpt and details of it all looks good. We get these special arms because he's got those thin gold bands around there. I'm surprised they didn't just give him regular arms, although, you know, because the glove portion, I don't know if, like, the regular arms, because, like, the Green Ranger did not get the gold bands because the old school toy didn't do that. But I don't know if that upper bicep was compatible with these 4 arms or how they did it. And it's probably ultimately for the best that we get, you know, these arms instead of the bare ones. But, you know, it would have been, you know, an interesting touch. You know, the nostalgia factor is kind of big on me, you know, when it comes to the aesthetic. And I know a lot of people disagree when it comes to stuff like that, but, you know, I dig it. You know, what these figures represent. I'm really into it. But we got the boots there. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and zoom out for the articulation. Okay, so just like all the other Rangers in terms of articulation, he has a disc hinge so he can look up that much, which is good. He can look down that much, which is good. You get a full rotation in that head. Not really any pivot going along there. The shoulder you can get to go straight on out like so. Rotation in there, just be careful of the shield there. Again, when I try to get that arm to go down to the side, the shoulder pops out and you can see some paint flakes on there. That's not a big deal. That's on that plastic hinge there. So it goes back in, but you just can't get it. I wish it could go get in closer, but there again, just pops off. You got upper bicep swivel in there. Single jointed elbow gives you that much bend there, so it's not a whole lot, especially because the gloves are quite large and thick compared to the other ones. I feel like you get a little bit less bend at that elbow. You also get a swivel at the elbow, wrists swivel, and they have the vertical hinge on both of these grip hands there. All the Rangers, they all come with the same hands, by the way. And then we have ab crunch on there, so ab crunch and ball joint waist going back total is that much. Coming forward is not going to be a whole lot, as you can see there. It's pretty limited. You got a swivel at that waist and a little bit of a ball joint, so you can actually end up tilting to his right a little bit, tilting to the left a little bit here as well. It's a little bit softer so it doesn't get in the way, as opposed to the other Rangers where they have that holster on there, so it really gets in the way. This is actually a sheath, so you can actually fit Saba right on in there, and I think this works out quite well because it fits in there and rests quite nicely there. So that is definitely a nice touch. I had talked about the waist swivel. Legs go out that far apart, which is good. He can kick forward only so far. There, the leg does go back a fair amount. Not really a thigh swivel in there, although you can get some turn in that thigh at that ball joint, so, but just a little bit. Single jointed knee, so you get 90-degree bend at the knee. You have a boot swivel in there. Foot hinges all the way down. You get some hinge up, good amount hinge up. Ankle pivot, pegals at the bottom of the feet. So that is the articulation for Super 7. I know a lot of people always prefer double jointed knees and elbows, myself included. But with the Super 7 stuff, the way I understand it, and I get what they're going for, Brian Flynn has also said this, when he looks at aesthetic over certain things, but also when you factor in like the vintage toys. So if you go back to the vintage toys, they were all single joints. So he's kind of recreating that look, that feel, that nostalgia for those toys. Whether you agree with it or not, or prefer it or not, that's what they're doing here. I see the vision, and I can dig it. Would I prefer double jointed elbows and knees? Absolutely. They're so much better, far superior than single joints. But if we're talking about from a pure nostalgia aesthetic point, this is the design that they go for, and that's what it is. And again, recreating those toys, hitting the nostalgia factor, because these figures bring me back to my childhood 100%. And that's what it's all about for me. So I dig it. So Tommy Oliver, my favorite Power Ranger of all time. And granted, I only watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Obviously, Alien Rangers is a part of that. Zeo, I enjoyed. Turbo, I was not a very big fan of, and that's where my Power Rangers watching era had ended, was with Turbo. I did watch In Space as an adult, a number of years ago. My son watched it with me, and we enjoyed Power Rangers in Space. Watched a little bit of Lost Galaxy, and that's it. So anything of the newer stuff, obviously, I did not watch. So for me, it's really all about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Tommy Oliver, my favorite Ranger. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. But here we have the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. Green Ranger is actually my favorite Ranger, more than the White Ranger, and I always debated internally which one I liked more. And I think when the Lightning Collection figures had come out, I had made my decision I'm a Green Ranger guy. I'm not a White Ranger guy, although I love them. I'm a Green Ranger guy. But I gotta admit, having these two figures in here, the Super 7 figures, the metallics, I kind of like the White Ranger a little bit more. I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but I am really digging the White Ranger. I really like that silver aesthetic. I don't know that chrome, if you did a Vac Metal figure, I think they're doing that with the Silverhawks now. I don't know how well that's going to come out and stuff, and it might be terrific, might be great. I don't necessarily need that, and that's just me, my personal feelings on that. I know people will have different opinions on that and would prefer it, and maybe so, but I'm really liking the silver on this guy. I really like the muted gold of the gloves, the boots, the shield, the belt, the sheath, the helmet. I really, really like it. Something about it just looks really good to me. So for these deluxe metallic Ranger figures, White Ranger is the better one, even though I'm a Green Ranger guy. But you guys let me know down in the comments below. The Ultimate Showdown, which Ranger do you like more, the Green Ranger or the White Ranger? And then which figure do you like more, the metallic Green Ranger or the metallic White Ranger? White Ranger's the winner. Okay, so here we have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Metallic Rangers, again, exclusive to Hasbro Pulse. Pre-order links in the video description below. They release on November 1st. Super 7 was kind enough to send these 4 out to me to give you guys those early looks to see if that's something that you guys would like to pre-order there. I only have the 4, so red, yellow, and the Blue Ranger, unfortunately, I did not get. I'll be looking to get those orders in when they release through Hasbro Pulse. But I'm really digging them. I like the logos in the front. And again, when I had talked about in the packaging how it was a throwback to various different things. The Mastodon and the Pterodactyl, I guess, would technically not be correct, because if we look at like the movie figure releases in those metallic forms, it would have been the frog, it would have been the crane. So there's those kinds of things, but, you know, they're trying to tie it back to original Mighty Morphin, the original lineup, you know, by naming him Zach as opposed to Adam. So it's kind of recreating that. So I dig it. Plus the original 8-inch figures had those symbols on the figures too. So it's kind of a mashup of all those kinds of different things to really hit every nostalgia check factor. So it's like those 8-inch figures, boom, check. The auto morphing flip heads, check. So we have all that going. So I'm liking the line. I appreciate the line for sure. I love the triangle throwback boxes. Absolutely love those. That's how I'm going to display them. I have so limited in space, so I will keep them in those boxes. They look really good. Obviously collector-friendly packaging, so I could slip them right back in those plastic trays, slip them right back in the box, and it's as good as new. And then also nostalgia factor. I forgot to show these in the Pink Ranger and the Black Ranger reviews, but they also did reaction figures in those old school triangle boxes. But I'm not much of a 3 3/4 inch, 4-inch guy. You know, I'm all about the 6-inch figures. Super 7 does make 7-inch figures, but it's pretty close. I'd rather have larger figures than the shorter figures for sure. But you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of these metallic Rangers? What do you think of the Super 7 going with a deluxe? So less accessories, and in some cases probably going to be less paint apps too. But that lower price point, I think, is everyone's going to be a big fan of that. You guys give me all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Help me reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're getting so close. And as always, thank you for watching.